Once Human is getting a huge update 1.6.2, I'll go over all the new details, the new events that are coming with that. We also gotta look at some brand new quality of life features that will completely change the interaction from season to season. There's the brand new Way of Winter update test. We'll also check out all of those details, as well as a whole bunch more. What's up world, it's Utopia here back with another video. Today we're checking out all things Once Human. We'll jump right into update 1.6.2, where that is going to land tomorrow with a maintenance on June 4th at 4 PM Pacific time, and that is estimated to last around 2 hours. This update includes a host of new features, content, as well as an update to a current scenario. Or first off, we look at the new features and content. As I mentioned in my last video, we are getting new custom servers. Those are going into early access. Those can be rented and fully customized. They're available from June 4th to the 17th, with the official launch being on June 19th. They're going to be limited sale and invitation only during early access, and paid cosmetics will not be available on custom servers until June 19th. So those aren't going to carry over. As they do mention, custom servers are offered at a cost. That is with no markup though. So they're not making any money on this. They're essentially having you pay what they pay. Now they do have an official rental link here, but this currently doesn't have that on there. I do believe these will go live with June 4th maintenance. I'll include a link to it down below in the description in case you do want to access that when it does go live. Something they didn't list here that I talked about in the last video though, these custom servers are different than the regular servers. So yes, cosmetics will eventually be shared with the custom servers. However, your current character will not be. So anything like the blueprints or any of that systems, those will be separate from the regular servers to custom servers. Since you can make it easy and you essentially get a dev console, or at least an admin console, you can spawn in items. These characters will never be merged with regular servers, and you'll never be able to take them to regular servers. These are going to be an entirely different entity and different system there. So kind of just like the PvP raid zone, you'll start off from zero, but you'll have a plethora of options that you can go through and host a custom server for. Now, as I mentioned, I should be getting a custom server, or at least receiving one. If you guys are open to join that, please do let me know. I'll only have this live for a little while. I believe it's like 30 days I get a trial access. However, if it does become fairly popular, maybe I will eventually extend that. For right now though, I can just try some new things on there and we'll kind of vote based on what we want to do. So a pretty decent thing there. Next up, we have the Way of Winter update test. Yes, they are doing some overhauls here to the Way of Winter scenario, which goes as follows. They're going to update the thermal towers here, adding some brand new ones, where now you can build those inside your territory and they're shareable with others with permission settings. So a decent change there overall. I believe they're probably going to be a lot smaller than the normal ones, and now that you can share that with others, that is nice. They're adding an additional mechanic here, like an extreme weather system, where weather will spread gradually with unique environmental effects per phase. So it does seem like it's going to eventually get colder and hotter around the entire map, where the starting zones normally are really easy to play in. Eventually those won't be. There's also going to be Chaosium hubs, where you can use those to reduce the extreme weather effects. You can even summon a Chaos Weaver to clear the effects entirely, and you could also spend raw Chaosium for powerful regional survival buffs. I do believe that's essentially going to pertain to everybody in that region. It also looks like this scenario is going to play out a lot like Endless Dream, where there will be a new scenario ending rework depending on how many times extreme weather is cleared. There's also been an additional quality of life change here for improved announcements or prompts. Essentially, they're going to be better region transitions and clearer survival alerts, so you should know when things are happening and when they are. They do want to note though, there is no PvE content being added for this. It is essentially just being focused on survival and strategic depth only. So no new content there except for the new thermal towers, and at least reutilizing the Endless Dream mechanics. With this update, there's some brand new events and limited features. We see the Visional Wheel get an upgrade to Stargate Rush. That's happening from June 5th to the 19th, and there's going to be an aerial racing event where you can team up and race through now caught skies. Collect rings to unlock a new V-skin, so finally they are adding a V-skin. That has been a major request for quite a while. And there's a zero gravity name card being added with some additional event rewards. So a fairly decent event there and a nice upgrade to the Visional Wheel. Of course, typically with these larger updates, we get a new Wish Machine prize pool. That once again going to last for 3 weeks only. That includes the Doombringer, a legendary weapon blueprint. We also have Outer Power Surge and Striding Hunter, which is an outer space legendary blueprint, and the Gravity Tide gear set, which is that new one that has just been added. So you can snag yourself an additional set there if you need to. Which brings us on to our new shop arrivals. There's a brand new Lightforged loot crate called Dust Echo, which is a Quantum Echo outfit, some Dust Herald Void wings, a skin for the Hammer Weapon skin, and a Territory collectible. The choose one of 3 crates will be removed after this update. So if you did want anything from that Lightforged loot crate, you will have to get that now. Now on June 12th, they're actually adding a Plush Tails blind box, where these will only cost 40 Christogen each, and it will contain a random plush toy furniture, Those actually can be also gifted to your friends. Any duplicates will be dismantled into coupons and fused into more blind boxes. It's a little bit of a fun one there and fairly cheap on the Christian side of things. They're also releasing some additional packs here like the Ace Strike theme pack and a Cloud Rest furniture pack, which does suit the Echo textile of the Lightforged Loot Crate. Moving on here, we had some optimizations, but these actually directly apply to Raid Zone, and they are Raid Zone balancing specific. They've done a ton of weapon buffs here, where they've reduced the recoil spread, the horizontal recoil has been reduced, vertical recoil has been reduced for all weapons, pistols, rifles, LMGs, where a 20% has been reduced for SMGs, 10% for the rest. Stamina cost has been reduced by 50%, movement speed while down has been increased by 100%, and they've even added vehicle windows are now destructible and repairable, so it is easier to hit somebody in a car. Super cool there, like that they're doing separate optimizations there. There was 2 additional ones here for Endless Dream, and that was the highest level Light Dreamers now only drop Pro Rarity Mod selection crates, and they've optimized the Lightning Strike event effect, which is kind of cool. After the lightning does destroy a certain ore, it will produce the corresponding metal ingots. The construction and interface had some changes here. They've moved the water electricity hotkey to J. They've also made it where you can claim territories in build mode. Disassembly bench remembers the last item. Snapping structures now cause less jitter. So some decent overall quality of life and optimizations there. They also moved some combat settings and camera tweaks, where auto fire toggle will now be handled via the combat HUD only. However, all of your auto fire settings will be reset after this update. So if you did have auto fire on, you will have to re-put that back on through this new setting. They of course as always did some additional bug fixes. But if we do move on from that, we actually had quite a massive change to the Space-Time Backpack, where they're adding a new item loss prevention and recovery system, and they have added a new storage system called a transit system storage, where now items from scenarios will go into the transit storage instead of your backpack, and that should prevent item loss due to overflow. In fact, they have increased the capacity to 7,000, which is quite substantially a lot more than the Space-Time Backpack. Items will now automatically also be categorized by the system, where essentially how this does work is now items are going to the transit backpack, and you will have to manually remove them to your Space-Time Backpack. But that's to help with overflowing. Items will remain in the transit storage for 30 days. However, if a player is offline during a season settlement, the 30-day cooldown will begin upon the next login. After that cooldown expires, any unclaimed items will automatically be converted into Astral Sand. They do mention the system will prioritize keeping high-value items though, where lower-value items that exceed storage capacity will be converted into Astral Sand. They're also adding a recovery system, where you can now recover items that have been maybe potentially lost. They do mention this recovery system will be unavailable in PvP scenarios though. That's to keep it fair and balanced and prevent players from using this as a completely safe storage spot. But a really cool one there, and that should definitely help with item optimizations and essentially being able to move over your Space-Time Backpack. Maybe I'll go over this feature in another video when it does get released and go over how to exactly use it. I do have an item carryover video that I did a long time ago, essentially going over what is the best things to bring with you for each scenario. Maybe I'll do an updated version with that with the new Space-Time Backpack and transit system. Overall, it should be all covered for today's video. If you enjoyed it, like, subscribe, and until the next one. Deuces.